Reading alone won't make you a better citizen, a husband, a wife, a Christian, a human, whatever, what have you. There's a disconnect between head knowledge, right, and then heart knowledge that spurs itself to action and change. You must act on these great ideas. If you can't act properly with your soul not being aligned and your mind not being formed properly, there's gonna be a huge disconnect.
Hey there, this video is actually just the introduction session from an entire course on the Western Canon found on Theos. In it, you'll find 14 more sessions covering some of the greatest books ever written, as taught by Biedel and several other professors from Theos. If you find this interesting and you want to watch the rest, you can head to the link below and get a free trial period for Theos, where you can watch the rest of this course and 150 plus other courses on there as well. New ones are being added every single month. And if you're already subscribed, consider sending this YouTube video to someone who you think would benefit from watching it. Thank you so much.
Viewer, have you heard of William Emery Channing? No, I haven't heard of him either, but he did say something perceptibly insightful, and he said this: "It is chiefly through books that we enjoy intercourse with superior minds. In the best books, great men talk to us, give us their most precious thoughts, and pour their souls into ours." Welcome to Theos class called Western Canon. I'll be your host, Josh Biedel. We will be talking about books, magnanimous books, incredible books, and I am an admitted bibliophile, so this should be a very fun and interesting class. You know the old saying with real estate, the three most important words are location, location, location. For Western civilization, one of the most prominent things that has influenced our culture is books, books, books. You are your stories. You're the product of all the stories you ever heard. You're even the product of stories that you didn't hear. They've shaped how you see yourself, how you see the world, how you function, how you speak, how you interact with everyone, how you engage your culture. Your first great storytellers were from home, or from school, or from your church, somewhere in popular culture. Knowing and embracing healthy stories is crucial to living right and living well. If your present life story is broken, it's diseased, it's dilapidated, it's askew, it can be made well. How can it be made well? If necessary, you might need to replace your story that you're on now with a plot that's worth living. An ancient saying is this: you are what you read. There's a Mark Twain quote. He quips this: "The man who does not read good books has no advantage over the man who cannot read them." So someone who's illiterate and can't even read, you're just as the same as them if you don't choose to read books at all. How about this modern saying? You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I'm gonna combine the ancient saying and the modern saying that we just uttered, and it can be argued convincingly, I might add, that you are the average of the 5 books that you read the most. Your canon, your books, your stories, they become your plot. So, what are bent stories, broken stories, whole stories, and healing stories? A bent story portrays good as evil and evil as good. Such stories are meant to embrace like the evil tendencies of the character or the reader, such as like say pornography or horror movies or horror stories. The best decision regarding bent stories is to avoid them like the plague. Broken stories portray evil as good and good as good, but sometimes the evil wins, if that makes sense. Sometimes things are broken, but they're not quite right, but it just needs fixing. Such books and stories are not necessarily uplifting, but they can be very inspiring. Broken stories can be very good for the reader if they motivate you to cause some change to fix the brokenness or to heal them. Communist Manifesto would be a great example of this, right? It's a broken classic. In each of these broken stories, evil wins, but they've been very motivating to me to read because it does help me think I need to reverse those broken stories that are in the world. Whole stories are where good is good and good wins. Most of the classics that we're gonna delve into today, and most of the classics that you've probably been exposed to, they fall into this category of whole stories. Readers, you should spend most of your time reading whole stories. Healing stories can be either whole or broken, where the reader's profoundly moved, changed, inspired, or you're significantly improved by your reading experience. Develop a personal canon, a personal repertoire of healing stories. Spend the majority of your studies in whole works and stories, but don't neglect the broken stories that you and I should be fixing, especially as part of the capital C church. What are books? How would you define what is a book? I think a book is a treasure trove of great men and women with some of their best thoughts and wisdom. Some of the classic books that have done the hardest thing and most gravest difficult task in the history of mankind, which is they've withstood the test of time. Books are recorded conversations with great minds. Shakespeare's deceased, Aristotle's deceased, Isaac Newton's deceased, Dante's deceased, but when I read their works, I come face to face with greatness, and I can have a conversation with Dante, so to speak. His best thoughts distilled, edited, his mind working for years and years on a concept, on a theme, on a story. I have exposure to that. So I'm really, in a sense, talking to Dante and having that kind of conversation. And it is one way, but in some ways it's also two ways as my mind is racing and grappling with the things he's putting my way. Books teach you, they rebuke you, they enlighten you. Books kickstart revolutions. They challenge, they frustrate, they upend. Before the advent of audio recordings and video, just in the last 200 years or so, the artistic merit of all the sages and of the human race was the written word. This was sufficient for Jesus too. If you think back through history, he didn't come on the scene during iPhones or during handheld camcorders, right? He decided to be inserting himself into human history at a moment when he knew the word of mouth, oral tradition, and also the written word was going to have to testify to his life. So if it's good enough for Jesus and it's good enough for the Father, the written word and books should be good enough for us. Let's trust that process. Here's what Richard de Barry says. He says, all the glory of the world would be buried in oblivion unless God had provided mortals with the remedy of books. So many times in the scriptures, Jesus, Moses, they'll say things like, it is written, or haven't you read? Moses, Samuel, David, the major, minor prophets, the disciples, Saul of Tarsus, they wrote down revelations, interactions of the Creator and His creation. You know this. You know every civilization on this planet, nearly all of them, have kept written records and their written works. Ultimately, if this quote insight from Barbara Tuchman doesn't move you, just stop watching this course right now. It's not for you. And go back to watching whatever, Downton Abbey. Here's what she said. Books are the carriers of civilization. Without books, history is silent. Literature is dumb. Science crippled. Thought and speculation at a standstill. Without books, the development of civilization would have been impossible. They are the engines of change, windows on the world, lighthouses, as a poet said, erected in the sea of time. They are companions, teachers, magicians, bankers of the treasures of the mind. Books, she says in conclusion, are humanity in print. Why do I think reading is important personally? It's such an effective medium between mind and mind, author and reader. We think largely in words. Even now, those visuals that will be heavy in this course, but you're thinking of the words that I'm uttering, right? And they're forming pictures. There's symbols of words and interactions with words. There's correlations with things. When I utter them, you associate them in your mind. That's the power that words have. So whether I'm saying them verbally or you're reading them on a page, a medium of words, there really isn't a barrier from mind to mind. Words are naked and unfiltered communication, not imagery, but they can relate to an image, but words are unfiltered from me to you. Someone living in times past and times future, words transpose that boundary. That's the power that words had. If words are so powerful, even in Genesis 1, God didn't just think something and create something. He did those things, but it's so salient that he uttered, let there be light. Henry David Thoreau said this, and tell me this doesn't ring true with you. How many a man has dated a new era in his or her life from the reading of a book? That's true in my life. I read War and Peace when I was 30 years old. I'm 41 now. I was backpacking through India and Thailand for 6 weeks. And when I finished that book, it was like a new season and era of my life after that rambunctious adventure I have, reading this phenomenal classic. I felt like I was a new being. The only book that got me hooked onto reading, I used to actually hate reading, believe it or not. When I was in elementary school, I despised it, ran from it. And then one day, a buddy of mine liked this girl. We both had, trying to win her affections. And she was asking about the book he's reading, and it was Where the Red Fern Grows. And so kind of be on that same page and not get left behind and wooing this girl. I thought I want to read Red Fern Grows too. So I read Where the Red Fern Grows, and a switch flipped. And all of a sudden, the magical spell that is reading and diving into these books with these pixie dust ridden stories, I got hooked into being a reader. And from there, I started jumping into 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and Robin Hood and King Arthur. What books for you? What book for you really captured you, got a hook in you, catapulted you to become a reader? Think back right now if you could. What's something that you hold near and dear to your heart? Any book or story you heard that means a lot to you. Roger Ebert, the eminent movie critic, said this: like an alcoholic trying to walk past a bar, you should see me trying to walk past a used bookstore. That speaks of me too. Every time I walk by a used bookstore, I have to go in. I end up spending about 10, 15, 20 bucks every time. Maybe that's the same of you too. Now, this Western Canon course, we're gonna give you a list of books that we feel are the epitome and major symbolizing themes, topics of Western civilization. The Western Canon is what we're calling it. Think of this: Son of David, King Solomon, riffed this in Ecclesiastes 12. Quote, "Of the making of books there is no end." And he wrote that a couple thousand years ago. So now there's just a proliferation of books. Harold Bloom, prominent literary critic, said this: "He who reads must choose." You have a choice, you have a dilemma. You want to read something, you have an appetite for it, you're curious, you want to be challenged, right? Someone had a recommendation, there's a movie you saw, and someone said, oh, there's actually a book about that movie. Oh, really? You have to make a decision. I want to read something. Now, next step, what do I pick up? What do I read? Did you know that until recently, about the last 100 years, the West regarded it as self-evident that the road to education laid through books, great books, seminal books. Did you know also that there used to be unanimity of what constituted the masterpieces of such literature? Well, what should you choose? We at Theos U hopefully can lend you a hand for free of charge. Obviously, you're paying subscription money for this. So besides that, it's free. What's the best of the best? Who has submitted and left for posterity the greatest writings? Let's pause for a second and get to the etymology of this class. When I say Western and Canon, what do I mean by that? When I mean the West, I mean hemispherically speaking, geographically speaking. I mean that word embodies Europe, the Americas, and Australia. Doesn't mean Asia, doesn't mean China, doesn't mean Africa. So when I say West, I mean those primary carriers of humanity. Canon. Canon's interesting. Canon, the etymology of canon is Greek for kanon, K-A-N-O-N. And what the etymology refers to is it's a cane. So think of like an elderly person, right? So my grandma used to have a cane, and now she's in a wheelchair, but she had a cane, and it was a stick, and it braced her, it helped her. It was a measurement, right? That's what the root word for canon comes from, is this is the measurement. And if things don't measure up to something, it doesn't measure up to the cane, it's not worthwhile. So think of like a 3-yard stick. I think it's a meter everywhere else besides America. So for a meter, that's the standard. If something needs to be 10 meters long and it doesn't measure out 10 meters, it didn't meet up to the standard. The cane length, right? The canon, that's where that comes from. So for a canon, a cane, if we have books like Shakespeare and Dante and Plato and Augustine, it's withstood the test of time. That's a standard. It's a cane. If other books come along and say, this is a great book, it's better than this, it's just as good as that, it should be in the same breath as that, really, let's measure it up to the cane, the standard. That's where canon comes from. So that's what we're gonna be delving into, is books that have lived up to the standard, the canon, which also is a correlative into the scriptures too, right? You have the canon of scripture. These are the books that either they're apostles, they saw God, they were prophets. And if someone said that they, like for instance, the Gospel Atomic, some of the Gnostic Gospels, the Gospel of Mary, they don't measure up to the canon, the standard, for various reasons. So that's where it comes from. Book lists in general, like the Western Canon, that's been around for as long as time itself. Teachers and librarians from ancient Alexandria had a famous book list that you should read. Their book list was the backbone of their education. The famous Roman teacher and educator Quintilian, he developed a list for Romans to read that was a canon of sorts. And what Quintilian did is he selected ancient books that came before him, and he actually started producing modern books for his canon. In the Middle Ages, Christians, Muslims, and Jews developed the best books lists to read. In the Renaissance, especially by Erasmus and Montaigne, they promulgated their book lists. And in the modern era, just in the last 50 years or so, actually I checked that, about 75 years or so, there's a great books of the Western world that's been published by the Encyclopedia Britannica in 1952. There's 54 volumes in there, and the Harvard Classics, they're a library of books with many volumes. I think there's 50 volumes in that. So the idea that these are the books and the works you should be reading, that extends back several millennia. A book is only as good as its ideas contained therein. I mean great ideas. Great books contain great ideas. Mortimer Adler, he's a famous compiler of one of the great book series. He went through and he associated about 102 great ideas that popped up continually throughout some of the best books of the Western civilization. Someone then whittled those 102 down to 48. Take a look at them on the screen here. These are some of the 48 great ideas that pop up constantly through the Western Canon books. We have art, beauty, chance, citizen, constitution, courage, democracy, duty. I'm gonna skip around here. Fate, government, history, infinity, justice, law, liberty, progress, love, religion, slavery, temperance, tyranny, virtue, and vice, and wisdom. Now, 102 ideas whittled down to 48. Did you know that they actually discovered what are the 5 most popular ideas? And of all the books in Western civilization that have withstood the test of time in the Western canon. So what are the 5 most popular ideas that have popped up the most in all the great Western canon books? They're this, in sequential order. God is the most prominent idea in all the Western canon books. Knowledge, man, state/government/justice, and love. And interestingly enough, God, knowledge, man, state/government/justice, and love, those crop up in Genesis 1 through 3. We have God, we have the creation of man, we have state, government, giving him task, responsibility, right, some organization. We have justice when he dispenses justice for the sin. And we have love between Adam and Eve and a love of God and man. The purpose of this class, let's zoom out here and let's just get practical, let's just get real. Let's address the elephant in the room. Reading these books or possessing them, buying them, skimming through them, or saying, you raise your hand, yeah, I've read that, I've read this book, I've read that book. That doesn't really do jack. It feeds the ego, it feeds the pride. That's not what we're interested in here for this Western Canon class. Reading alone won't make you a better citizen, a husband, a wife, a Christian, a human, whatever, what have you. There's a disconnect between head knowledge, right, and then heart knowledge that spurs itself to action and change. You must act on these great ideas. If you can't act properly with your soul not being aligned and your mind not being formed properly, there's going to be a huge disconnect and you'll be living a wayward life. You need solid answers, how to navigate the storms of life and the ways of humanity. Let's read this G.K. Chesterton quote here. He said this, "You can find all the new ideas in old books. Only there you will find them balanced, kept in their place, and sometimes contradicted and overcome by other and better ideas. The great writers did not neglect a fad because they had not thought of it, but because they had thought of it and of all the answers to it as well." I think, I don't have this in my notes, but I'm reminded of a Mark Twain quote. He goes, all the great ideas that we think we discovered, the ancients actually did it before us. And it's like, yeah, no kidding. Another purpose of this class, we have a 5-fold purpose, is this. Number 1, the Western Canon class that you're embarking on right now, viewer, is to help save you time. We possess the canon and we create these book lists and fashion them Because we're mortal, we have limited time on this earth. We have finite time, and time's going to stop. Therefore, we have these lists like, these are things you should read before you breathe your last breath.
In a time where truth is under attack through distraction, disinformation, and the chaos of postmodern ideologies, it's vital for us as Christians to strengthen our faith through education. Theos delivers a distilled Bible college experience for all Christians right in your pocket. Binge like Netflix or join cohorts for guided study. From full-time church staff to Christians in any vocation, Theos fits your life and calling. Equip yourself, your church, and your ministry with courses on all aspects of the Christian faith, taught by leading scholars, ministers, theologians, and apologists. Come learn non-woke theology at Theos.
There's a saying that someone told me. They said, if you don't read the classics first, you might not have time to read them later before you die. So it's better to read them first just in case. Second purpose for this class is to help you, encourage you to slow down. In our harried culture and world, the major essential questions of life, they're not pondered as deeply and richly as they should. Great books can help us do that. They help us slow down. Reading actually rewires your brain. They've done studies on this. It's not in my notes, but there's a book. It just talks about the way now in the 21st century, we're reading and texting and we're skimming articles and looking at memes and social media. That quick, shallow level reading, just a couple lines, couple sentences, it rewires our synapses. So when we actually do sit down with a big book or some long article or essay, we're impatient because the rewirings of our brain have been catered to quick, and not for long durations. So reading these books helps your brain get rewired and it induces you to be a more patient person. People have stopped caring about literature because people stopped believing in its promises of revelation and delight. Jesse Lee Bennett says this: books are the compass and telescopes and sextants and charts which other men have prepared to help us navigate the dangerous seas of human life. Third purpose is to allow wisdom to seep into you. Remember James's call in his famous epistle. He says, if any of you lacks wisdom, ask God, ask the Father of lights. We certainly get our own share of challenging experiences in life, but learning from others' mistakes and triumphs can help us on our journey. Classics allow us to experience in one way or another the greatest mistakes and successes and choices of human history. If we learn from those mistakes, that will help us not make as many mistakes in our lives as well. C.S. Lewis said this: the only palliative for the errors of our modern world is to keep the clean sea breeze of the centuries blowing through our minds. And this can only be done by reading old books. Not, of course, that there's any magic about the past. People were no cleverer than they are now. They made as many mistakes as we, but not the same mistakes. Fourth purpose of this class of Western Canon for Theos is to prepare you, to equip you. Anthony Eslin says this: true art not only convicts man of the reality of his life, but opens him to the eternal stage upon which he will eventually and inevitably step. At a deeper level, knowing how others think via book reading and knowing how they feel, how they act, allows us to predict human behavior and lead our lives accordingly. We can develop empathy and compassion, wisdom, self-discipline, without subjecting our relationships to a learning curve, because the learning curve is in front of us by reading these classics. This is invaluable as a spouse, as a parent, as an entrepreneur, pastor, leader of your community. People with experience have been through certain patterns. Think about your grandma and grandpa. They have so much a wellspring of wisdom because they've been through myriad experiences and they know what to anticipate. The classics and reading books provide you with as many experiences as possible. The last reason to watch this class and the purpose of is to challenge you. Mark Twain said this: a classic is something that everybody wants to have read and nobody wants to read. That's true in some cases, but not all the way. Harold Bloom said, when you read a canonical work for the very first time, you encounter a stranger and an uncanny startlement rather than a fulfillment of expectations. I'm not gonna lie to you, some of these books, they can be arduous, but anything worthwhile is challenging. That saying, that proverb is so true. Easy come, easy go. I don't know if you have a degree of some sort, high school, college, whatever, some certificate, something you worked hard for. You had a season of life that was difficult. You played sports, you ran a marathon, you went through some grief. When you come out of it, you look back and the harder the challenge, the more you look back with joy, the more you look back with the sense of, that was powerful. I wouldn't change that for anything. But if it wasn't powerful, if it wasn't deep, if it wasn't difficult, you probably wouldn't even retain a memory of it. It's just in your mind and out. It doesn't stay in your long-term memory. Long-term memory necessitates something difficult and challenging. Chesterton said this again: the Christian ideal has not been tried and found wanting, and has been found difficult and left untried. That can translate 100% to books. Great books in the canon has not been found and tried and found wanting. Oh, these books suck, these aren't very good. No, people just haven't dipped into them and they haven't experienced them. That's what the reality really is. The classics force us to think, which is a challenge. First, we're caused to think about characters in the story and then ourselves. Would I do that? What would I do in that position? Would I have said that? Interesting, I didn't even contemplate that kind of solution, right? Reading's a chore at first. It can feel kind of like an assignment. But if you persist, it eventually, if you get to this level, it becomes entertainment. It becomes a delight. First a duty, then it becomes a delight later. Maybe that happens for you immediately. Maybe that happens for you months. Some of you, it's years down the road, reading becomes a delight. But something clicks. And all the exposure to these great minds, it reaches a critical mass. And all of a sudden, your soul and your emotions and your mind is just, it's awakened to this greatness that you're interacting with. Your exposure to greatness changes you. You think bigger, act bigger. Your plans are more challenging. Your faith is more powerful. It's like if you're starting off as a basketball player and you watch a YouTube video of Michael Jordan, you watch his highlights. Watching greatness and seeing how he played and seeing how he, on the court, he interacted with his teammates, how he just attacked offensively, defensively, just incredible all NBA defender. Watching that can't help inspire you to become a great basketball player. Same with the great books and the great ideas. When you're exposed to them, it elevates you to a stratosphere you didn't know was feasible. Thinking is like exercise. It takes consistency and rigor. When you go to a gym, you can't leave out of there sore without getting a good workout. It challenges your muscles and your joints and your ligaments, but you're better off for it. The classics make you struggle. They make you search, they make you ponder, they make you seek, they make you analyze, they make you discover, they make you decide. And here's one that really affects me. It makes you reconsider. You read something, I never considered that before. Interesting, and that the great people make you reconsider some things in your life. Here's an overview of the class. There's 5 considerations we'd like you to keep in mind. 1 is the content of the books we'll be talking about. We're talking about the text itself. Then we'll talk about the prior context, which would be the previous works in the canon that maybe influenced the book that we're talking about. Then there's a post-context. So that book came about in the Western Canon. What books succeeded it, and how did that book affect post-canon works? Then there's also the 4th consideration is a personal connection. What do these books mean to the various people doing these videos? What is the personal connection they shared with these great books? And lastly, a consideration would be, what are some of the Judeo-Christian principles and values that you were finding in these books? Most of them is pretty self-evident. You don't have to really dig deep to find that. It's just right there on the surface. So here is our Western Canon list. This is in sequential order, time-wise. I'm gonna give you the book title, and then give you the book author, the genre it belongs to, and then I'll tell you the Theos U faculty member that will be teaching and talking about that book in the videos to come. Book number 1, The Odyssey by Homer. The genre would be epic poetry. The faculty member will be myself. I did have Chris Palmer penciled in for that. He is Greek after all, and Odyssey and Homer are Greek. But he had to dip out. He's a busy guy, but I was giving him a hard time. I was like, Chris, what's the Greek word for being disloyal? What's the Greek word for breaking your bond? What's the Greek word for being a liar? And he couldn't answer that. He felt really convicted, so we'll pray for Chris. Book number 2, The Peloponnesian War by Thucydides. The genre is history. By yours truly, I will be doing the Peloponnesian War. Book number 3 in our Western Canon class is The Republic by Plato. The genre, political philosophy. Theos U faculty member will be Stephen Rummelsberg. He's new to Theos U, but I know for a fact you will appreciate and enjoy him. Book number 4, Nicomachean Ethics by Aristotle. Genre is philosophy, and the instructor for that class will be Nathan Finocchio. Book number 5, The Aeneid from Virgil. The genre, epic poetry, and I will be presenting that class. Book number 6, Confessions by Augustine. The genre is autobiography, and Leha Lahavandi will be presenting that little video. Book number 7 in our Western Canon list is The Divine Comedy by Dante. Genre is poetry, and our very own John Adams will be doing that book for you. Book number 8, the Summa Theologica by Thomas Aquinas. Genre, theology/philosophy, and Gabriel Finocchio, Mr. Gabriel Finocchio, Master Gabriel Finocchio, will be presenting that book to you. Book number 9, Hamlet by Shakespeare. You ever heard of Shakespeare? Yeah, probably not, but no, you surely have. This would be a play, but a tragedic play as a genre, and I'll be presenting that wonderful play. Book number 10, Paradise Lost by John Milton. Genre, epic poetry. And since John Milton's first name is John, I just felt appropriate to let John add him to that book. And he was begging me and crying, can I please do Paradise Lost? So John, you're losing your man card, but that's fine. You can do Paradise Lost. Book number 11 is the King James Bible. Author, God and man. Genre, sacred/religious writings. And our very own Dr. David Campbell will be presenting that. Book number 12 is Moby Dick by Herman Melville. Genre is fiction. I want to put an American sample in there for the canon as well. I will be your host for that. Now, I had 12, and I just listed 12 to you, but it's so hard to whittle down some of these books, so I got a baker's dozen. I have a 13th book for you. And the book that will be the penultimate book for our Western Canon class list is Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. Genre is fiction, and this is gladly covered by me. So, question. You might be pondering to yourself, why these books? If I choose these books, other books got left out. Now, I know some of you wanted Twilight in there. I'm sure Brian Voss, our video editor, he likes 50 Shades of Grey, huge fan. That needs to be in the canon, Josh. No, Brian, you need to do some fasting and praying. No. Harry Potter, some of you, I'm sure, unfortunately, were submitting. But no, in all seriousness, there's some heavy hitters I've left out. Tolstoy, Dostoevsky, the Russian literature, Les Mis by Victor Hugo, Darwin's Origin of Species, Isaac Newton's Optics. There's a reason for that. I'm gonna save that and circle back to that on the last video, the conclusion of the videos of this class. So come back then for why I give my reasons for the books I chose and the books I had to leave out. And I'll give you a list of honorable mention books. And I'll also give a plug now. I'm gonna not just list the books off for you and we'll teach you the books, show you the books, and why they're in the Western Canon. But most importantly, in that last video, I wanna give a plug for this. I'm gonna do my best to try to teach you, help you read these books. How do you read a book? There are styles and tips and formats that can help you really grasp and pluck out everything you can from a book. So I'm gonna kind of give you a tutorial of how I read books and what can help you read the book better. In conclusion of this introductory video, Harold Bloom said this: without the canon, we cease to think. A classic is a book that has never finished saying what it has to say, says Italo Calvino. These books speak to us still today. I'm gonna pray, and then we will jump into our first book of the Odyssey by Homer. Lord, breathe on us, help us enjoy this tasty, incredible, exquisite selection of books. My prayer is not for me or the professors to sound cool or clever. It's my goal, Holy Spirit, is to just magnify these viewers' souls as they dip into these books. And that as soon as they get done watching a video, they tell themselves, I need to go out and buy that book right now. And Lord, you will guide them, you will help them, you will create in them a better human, a better Christian by the result of these books. They've done this for millions of people beforehand, Lord. We're no different. So help this class, guide our words, help us be humble and always, always give you glory. I ask all of this humbly but boldly in Jesus' name. Amen. Let us now move to video number 1 from Odyssey by Homer.